Very cool. Are they like everywhere?
I don't want to be anybody's way.
Where they are? Guys, can I get you guys all that are here for the signing? Come on in. Ted and Tosca are here. Apparently the applause was not for me. Come on in.
Come on in. We can see you
I
all.
want to talk to you guys and give you a little bit of background and stuff. So come on in and have a
Just take them off.
Take them off.
Take them off.
Wait a second.
We don't care. All right, here we go.
I can't see Tosca.
You're in Ohio.
Awesome.
The Midwest. No shit.
Okay, well, this is Ohio, yeah?
Yes.
I think it's,
Come on, guys. Oh, wait. Don't tell anybody what they will lynch me when I get home.
You're on video right now. I'll post it on YouTube.
well, it is such a, I think this is the first time I've ever been to Columbus. Have you
I've been here a few times.
Okay, I mean to sign books.
Oh, to sign books, yes.
You've been here?
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
Yes or no?
No, I've not been here to sign books.
Okay. I'm not sure I've been to Ohio. Maybe I have. Cincinnati, maybe. Is that in Ohio?
Yes. We drove through it.
That's right. We just drove through. We just
come from Lexington. From Lexington.
Yeah, we just came from Lexington.
Kentucky.
We're very confused.
So anyway, well, it's such a pleasure to be here with all of you. You know, one of the most beautiful things for us on tour as authors, it's probably true for all authors, but I can only speak for myself, and I know Tosca feels the same way, is to actually connect and see those who are taking this journey with us through these stories, the discovery of life in story, is a beautiful thing. Because really, we co-authored these, the books of mortals. But there's really three authors here. There's Tosca, there's myself, and there's you. And let me explain how that works. When we write a story, we don't flesh the whole story out. We just put in markers. This happens and this happens. But what actually is happening in the story, you're creating with your own mind. You see the horse running. You see the guy firing the gun. You see whatever's happening. And I guarantee you the movie that's in your mind, well, it's a bright light. The movie that, what's your name?
Kelsey?
Kelsey. The movie that Kelsey sees in her mind, do you read these stories?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I haven't read these particular books, but I'm
Back up.
You'll feel better. She has 20 in her trunk that she hasn't read yet.
Okay.
I'm working on it.
That's good.
I'm yours. So.
Very cool. Well, what's your name?
Robin.
Robin and Kelsey. You guys have very different movies running in your mind as you are creating and fleshing out this story. You see, so actually you're creating the story with us. And it actually takes a higher degree of intelligence and creativity to read a book than it does to watch a movie. Movies are great. We all love movies. Yes, we all love movies. But usually more intelligent, creative people end up gravitating towards books. That means all of you are
Yes, we are. Oh, yeah.
So let us tell them a little bit how this whole thing came about, and how our writing together works, since I don't have a clue. It's a miracle it's actually happened.
Counseling, so. How this came about is we're very interested in the same kind of thematic material. So if you read me, I've written about fallen angels. I like to turn things upside down. I like to see what it looks like from the other end. You guys all know Ted. So the same kinds of things motivate us. We're vastly different authors. If you've read us both, you know that there's two completely different
How many here have read a Tosca Lee novel? Raise your hand. Okay, well, that's
I've
a good
got a
start.
scary. I'm going to start.
Okay, cool.
Now, by the way, if you read Forbidden, then you've read
You've
Tosca.
read a Tosca Lee novel.
So how many of you read Tosca Lee?
Okay. So we're interested in the same kinds of things, even though we're different as authors. Well, one day we're talking, and I said, why don't we do a story where everybody, is soulless, but they may or may not know it. And Ted said, well, why don't we make them all dead, and they don't know it. And so we started talking, and we said, why don't we take every spiritual change that happens with these people in the story and bring it out of the spiritual realm into the physical realm, so that every change that happens you can actually see. And so if you've read Forbidden or Mortal, you can see that when people come back to life, something happens. In Mortal, when they change, they physically change. And again, in Sovereign, physical change as they're transformed. So that was the concept that's happened.
Yeah, and what's really unique about this particular series is that some of you know I've co-authored other books with other authors before, but in all of those cases, either I wrote the book, like for example with Frank Peretti or Bill Bright, I wrote it, or in the other novels I've written with other co-authors, they've written it. In this case, each one of us wrote every single chapter over and over, and so it took an awful lot of time, twice as long as it would have otherwise taken. But what you have is a very unique kind of blending of her beautiful poetic prose. If you've read her, you know what I'm talking about. And my kind of insane plot twists and craziness, yeah? But ultimately, we're just exploring the journey that we all go through in this madness called life. It is madness until we discover the true beauty of who we are. And we find that all the madness is just kind of an insane journey that we were once trapped in. But there is freedom from that journey. It's a very narrow way to find that freedom from the insanity of life. Very few find it. And as few in the church find it as outside of the church. This is my discovery.
And once we find it, we wonder why we're as miserable as everybody else.
And, well, the thing is, what happens is that within the church, we are just as miserable. Yeah? And so, in fact, that's what this whole series is about. Especially the last novel, Sovereign. We ask ourselves this question: why is it that we continue to suffer in this life? Why do we still see ourselves as ugly? Why do we feel like we're never quite good enough? You ever feel that way? Yeah. We never quite measure up. If people knew who you really were, they might not accept you. Do you ever feel that way?
Yes.
Yeah, we all do. So, what does it mean, having stepped into this thing called the church, or stepped into Christianity? What does it actually mean to be transformed? And letting go of that hell of suffering that traps us still so often. That's the journey of Sovereign. So I say Forbidden is a story of actually finding physical life, because everyone's dead, like I said. Mortal is the journey of stepping into what you might think of, spiritual. What we think is the church, Christianity. Sovereign is the spiritual transformation into true freedom, which is ultimately what we're all seeking. And it is a very narrow way. That last step is when Jesus talked about. Very few find it, but it is on that path where his yoke is easy and his burden is light. And then suddenly all the insane madness that keeps you still trapped, lifts, and you find a new freedom that is actually quite surprising. And then we tend to still forget that and go back into the madness, and then we remember who we are. And then we forget, and life is a cycle of remembering and forgetting. These stories help us remember, who we are. Because who you are is perfect, with no further need for correction, on any level. Your only struggle in this life will be to see yourself as your Father sees you. And he sees you as perfect. Amen. But you, through these eyes, see yourself as downtrodden, disadvantaged. So you protect yourself against the world. You protect yourself against all the grievances, and you develop grievances against those around you. You have offense, and you suffer. Well, Jesus said, if you're that way, you find yourself, your eyes are telling you a lie about this world, gouge them out. Meaning, take a radical step to disconnect from this mad world. Or if your hand is still clinging to this world, the madness of this world, cut it off. Of course, he didn't mean to actually cut it off. He means let go of the insanity of this world, because you are the son, the daughter of your Father. I know that's a slightly maybe different view. Maybe you haven't heard that before, spoken this way, but it will become common language in the decades to come, I guarantee you. You guys are beautiful! That's the good news. You know what I'm saying? It is is craziness. Now, speaking of craziness, writing this novel the way we did was quite crazy. Primarily because she's crazy. I'm not. I mean, this girl, I tell you, like I'm going into the story. You know, I'm writing in a way that I'm rushing to get the story out, and she is that finesser who comes along and says, "Wait a second, shall we really call her Abra?"
Thank God for her.
How long did it take us to come up with just the names?
The right amount of time.
Way too long.
I am perfect. I just said that.
Right, exactly. Which means that first name actually would have worked. It's, right? By the way, Sarah and Leanne, come on up. Come up here a second. Come on up. Come up.
Do you want to get on the chair?
This is Sarah, who's made this. Give her a hand. She's with Michelle. She's our publicist. She's made this whole entire trip possible, and she's done an incredible job. She leaves us tonight and heads back to Nashville, and we're going to go on to St. Louis. And this is Leanne, my beautiful wife. Without whom I would remain insane. Who also drives me insane in equal portions. No, I'm joking. I would be lost without her. I mean, we all know how this goes. There's this crazy things called relationships work. Yes, they are what leads us to the light, and they are often the ones that in our relationship is a crucible of transformation. How many know this? So we can be very thankful for them. They're beautiful. So Leanne, thank you so much for coming. This is the first time I've actually been on the road with her in like 2 years. For various reasons she wasn't able to come, so I'm so excited. So anyway, we're going to take a couple quick questions. Where have I seen you before, man?
Frank.
Frank! Louder? No.
He's from right now.
Oh, okay, yeah, Frank. Are you videotaping too?
I am.
Okay, erase it. So anybody have a question? We'll just take a couple questions before we get going here.
Which is your favorite book?
What's your favorite book, the ones you've read?
You have children?
Do I?
Yeah. Yes. Which is your favorite kid?
You don't want to know.
You got the easy kid, you got the sweet kid, you got the problem one.
Oh, the one who's with you. Okay, she said the one who's with her, right?
That's a good answer.
That's good.
You're the favorite.
So right now, my favorite novel is
This one.
this one.
The one that's with you.
Exactly. That's
You just threw your favorite novel in.
That's a hearty one.
How do you come up with the names of your characters?
Well, we have different processes. She takes a big book out and reads it in 5 days.
I have trouble with some of the
I have a
names.
baby name book.
This is the crucible of relationship laid out right here.
In many ways, it was like,
Sometimes
but
the
you know
name
what?
just sounds right, and you kind of think of that character, and the name just kind of blah, 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 comes out. But I have a baby name book that I use, and I'll put through,
Yeah.
Maybe I need to get it so I can help pronounce some of this.
We also make a lot of names up.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Like how many have heard of the name Mersubi's Black? People ask me how I came up with that name. It's like I was sitting at my desk one day going, same with Barsidius White. Marsubi's. It's this cool name. I have no idea if it exists, but it does now. Marsubi's. Yeah. Want a trip, baby. Yeah?
What's your favorite book that you didn't write?
My favorite book? Ooh. Favorite book I did? What's yours?
What? Oh, I thought you were asking her.
No, yours.
The favorite book that I didn't write. I've got a whole bunch of ideas. So I love them all. There's a lot that are kind of popping in front of me. I'm working on one now, so maybe it's that one. It's not written yet. So, I don't know.
Well, that's
hard.
That's kind of a cheating answer. Like the one I'm going to
That's
write.
my answer.
The favorite book that I haven't that I didn't write is the one I'm going to write. No. That's kind of cool. I would say that I've read.
Oh, that you read it. Oh, you did somebody else's.
Yeah.
I thought you meant that we made it right.
Yeah. I was going to say, that's
That's why it takes her a day to come up with names.
right.
Analyze it.
It takes 5 minutes to I'd say my favorite novel probably is either The Stand by Stephen King. I read that when I was in 8th grade when I was in the jungle. And it's a really cool redemptive story. Rather graphic. If you guys are extremists, don't read it, but otherwise it's very cool. And then Intensity by Dean Koontz. But I read a lot of nonfiction too. A lot, yeah. So what's yours? What's your
I'd say
favorite?
maybe The Red Tent. If you read The Red Tent, maybe an Anne Rice book. I really enjoy her stuff. Yeah, she's good.
Awesome. Okay.
Do you have any advice for anybody who wants to be a writer?
Oh, well, that's a pretty open-ended question. That's a real thing.
Finish culinary school is what you ought to say.
I'd say write 1,000,000 words, and then if you still want to write, become an author. Actually, you're already an author. You're writing, but you're not published. So my advice is write. I know it sounds really dumb, but that's pretty much what keeps people from publishing is they stop writing. Right?
Yeah.
Right? No pun intended.
And they don't finish.
That's, I mean, I might have lots of
Finish
advice.
what you're working on.
Yeah.
A lot of people want to write and they try to write and they never finish. And you can't get published if you don't finish.
Yeah.
How did you get your first one published?
Well, that's my first book. Actually, I didn't get my first one published. I got my 4th one published, and then ultimately went back and rewrote my first book, and it ultimately got published as well. So that's what I mean when I said write 1,000,000. I figure I wrote probably 1,000,000 words in writing and rewriting and rewriting and rewriting and new books and etc. before I finally got published. And if you have that kind of passion, tenacity, discipline, etc., to keep writing and to complete novel after novel after novel, and when I say complete, that's an important part, like she was saying, then you probably get published. Is that an overstatement?
Yeah, I think it's about right. It's about right.
How did your first book get published?
It was my 3rd book that got published.
See?
And it took 6 years of getting rejected by everybody. I've been rejected by everyone, so some of them twice. They change editors, a new editor comes in, and bam, rejects me again.
Yeah.
So,
It's a crazy journey getting published, and I think we put way too much emphasis on getting published.
yeah.
We're not writers. I'm not a writer. This is just a costume, a role that I'm playing. You know what I'm saying? We put way too much emphasis on the roles we play in this life. You're not really a mother or a son or a daughter. In fact, Jesus had a teaching of this. He said, if you want to follow me, remember that narrow way? He said, disidentify with your role. He used the word hate, but let's use the word disidentify. As mother, father, son, daughter, spouse, whatever. And then you can follow me. Crazy, yeah? We never speak about that. So we put so much emphasis on, I am writer, I am Ted Dekker. This is just a costume. Yeah? I'm much, much more and much less in some ways than this. Really. Actually, much more. And that's a beautiful thing to discover. I am a soul having a human experience. I'm not a human being having a spiritual experience. So,
You got a question over here.
You recently finished several projects. What's next?
my next project is called Outlaw,
Yes.
which is a radical look at some of the things I just talked to you about. They start in Sovereign. In Sovereign, you see kind of a whole new twist to the way, with Tosca, the way we started talking about spirituality, and it continues in Outlaws, which is a story about, it takes place in the jungles where I was born, in Indonesia, between Atlanta and the jungles of Indonesia. So it's kind of my own story and a very, very, I think a lot of liberties.
Are there cannibals?
They're cannibals. But, and then what's your next project?
Queen of Sheba. I want to be a girl again. So that's her story about her coming into this role as queen, and then her famous journey up to meet Solomon and their relationship and how it changed both of them. So.
So and that comes out next year sometime?
Next year, fallish.
Yeah. And Outlaw comes in October this year. One last question right here.
One question. How did you get teamed up together? And then how long did it take from concept to...
Well, how we got teamed up, I think she kind of told the story. In the very beginning, we write the kinds of novels that are very, very similar, and we explore our faith out of the box. Yeah, and we're in the same circles. So it was suggested we take a look at writing a novel together. And she was the one who actually approached me with the idea of, like she said, what if we wrote a story in which the whole world, no one had souls? And we took it from that to what if everyone was dead and no one knew it? And how long did it take? I'd say all in all, 3
Forbidden
years.
took the longest.
3 years probably from the time we first talked about the story, and then and finished writing Sovereign. I'd say about 2 years. And in between that, though, we wrote our own story, like Hysteria. Yeah. So, good question. Well, very good. Listen, I'm sure you have lots of questions, but we want to kind of go through this judiciously as possible. So, I don't know where you were in line, but if you can get back where you were.
Familiar face.
And we'll just get this thing on the road and get started.
Okay, guys, listen up for 1 second before we get started. We're going to take ticket numbers 155 through 175. If you can line up behind the big pink pole.